and the world. This is TMJ4 News at 4.
This place was so beautiful. And it's something that I've worked on for 10, 15 years. And it's all gone.
Right now at 4, complete devastation in Evansville. Barns destroyed, homes shattered, lives uprooted following Wisconsin's first ever February tornado. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us live. I'm Susan Kim here in Evansville. And you can see behind me, crews are working to do some of the cleanup from that devastation that we had last night with that first tornado in February. I can tell you we've been seeing scenes like this throughout the area all day today as we've looked at the damage from the storm and also talked to people who survived it. It's been a pretty tough day as they try to wrap their heads around what exactly happened. For those of you who don't know where exactly Evansville is, take a look at this map on your screen right now. The city of about 6,000 people is an hour and a half west of Madison, 30 minutes south of an hour and a half west of Milwaukee, and 30 minutes south of Madison. We are in Rock County. Now, our crews have been out here all day getting a first-hand look at what residents here are dealing with. And throughout this afternoon, you will hear from the voices of those who are trying to pick up what's left of their lives and introduce you to the people lending a helping hand. So first, let's begin with the news conference that officials just had a short time ago. The National Weather Service said 2 tornadoes actually touched down, one in Albany, the other in Evansville. The sheriff says roads are still blocked around Evansville and power could be out for some people into next week.
We've had a number of people that have suffered significant loss for their homes and some of their livelihood right now, and we're trying to take steps to help them as best we can.
So this storm certainly serving as an early reminder, earlier than usual, that tornado sirens are not supposed to be your first warning sign that danger is on the way. So coming up on TMJ4 News at 5 today, our Jenna Ray digs into who heard sirens go off last night and who did not. Plus, what first responders say should be your first line of defense against severe weather. And as I mentioned, we have spent much of the day today talking to people here in the Evansville area and looking at some of the damage. And we were able to talk to one family who lost their entire home. And his 83-year-old mother was at the house by herself, Marilyn King, and we talked to him about just the devastation that the family is dealing with now. Kevin, this is your childhood home. What is it like to see it like this?
It's surreal. It just, I don't know. I mean, everything's gone. There's like nothing left for the most part. So it's hard.
Your 83-year-old mom lives here alone. So was she here at the time of the storm?
Yep. Yeah, she was here. It hit probably about 10 to 6, at least this area. She was on the phone with my sister. She knew it was coming. She just didn't have a clue how close it was by that time because they had been on the phone for a while. And it was her cats that really alerted her. She's got 2 house cats that just started acting really strange. And she's like, I don't know what's going on, but maybe I better grab the cats and head to the basement. And it was about that time she said it must have been the barn that she heard and just a horrific sound. But yeah, she didn't quite get to the basement, but there's a basement door and the frame is about the only thing, because it was just inside where the roof is missing, is where she was at. But not a scratch, so yeah, she got really lucky.
What did she describe the sound and the feeling like?
The loudest, most horrific noise she's ever heard. It was just constant, just loud. For, I don't know, she said about a minute. It seemed like a lifetime.
And as you can hear the emotion in Kevin King's voice there, he says his mother is doing okay now, all things considered, but still just kind of soaking in what happened at her home last night as the tornado pretty much devastated their property, as you saw in that video. As you can see behind me, there is a lot of work that is going on, and you can see crews have been here pretty much all day. My colleague Tahleel Mohieldin has spent most of the afternoon here talking to people, cleaning up, and just trying to get a handle on the devastation that we are seeing behind us, Tahleel.
That's right. So the family that I spoke with that owns this farm told me that they've been here since last night just to see what was going on.
Sure.
As soon as it was safe to come out, they came out here to see. And, you know, there's quite a bit of damage that they're having to deal with. Where all this debris sits now, there was once a structure, a pretty large structure, about 65 by 65, and inside that structure was this sprayer. So a few feet down, that sprayer was launched over by the wind and turned upside down. Now what they're telling me now, as they're trying to wrap their heads around what's going on here, the only thing that's really bringing them comfort is the help that they've been getting from neighbors, the support that they're offering them.
I guess the person doesn't really realize how many friends you have until they start offering to help you clean up. Makes a big difference.
It doesn't surprise me because that's what farmers do.
So right now it's just extended family helping out, but they do say they have plans to take neighbors and friends up on that offer. They're just simply trying to wrap their heads around all of this before they can create an action plan. They do want to see what they can salvage, and I'll have more of that at 6.
Well, and I don't know if you at home can see, but Jeremy, if we can zoom in, I mean, there is farm equipment that has been flipped over, and that happened as part of the storm. I mean, it just kind of gives you an idea of the sheer power of the winds that moved out through this area last night.
Absolutely. It's wild because that was once inside of a structure, so you can imagine how far out that goes. But again, I'll have more on that at 6.
All right, Tahleel, Mohieldin, thanks so much for your time today. I want to bring in our Brendan Johnson as we take a look at some of these pictures of barns that have been flipped over and destroyed. And you'll see this throughout several streets here as we take a look. I mean, it's just hard to believe some of the damage that you see in this video here, walking through what's left for a lot of people who were hit by this storm. And Brendan Johnson, meteorologist, joins me live now. And Brendan, you spent time today talking to the National Weather Service. We saw them out here surveying the damage in person, going to several different locations.
Yeah, you know, it's one thing to hear from the folks that are dealing with this. What I really wanted to do is meet up with the folks that are responsible for looking at the damage itself, figuring out what the rating is for the tornado, how fast those wind speeds are. The National Weather Service deployed several teams today. It is early February, Susan. We don't have a lot of daylight. So multiple teams out to survey the damage, and they covered a wide area. In Greene County, we had another tornado, but right here in Rock County, another. I did speak with Tim Hallbach, our warning coordination meteorologist, who kind of walked us through how they perform this really important task.
We look at things like the house that's behind me here where the roof is gone for most of it. That tells us how much of a wind speed you can expect to have with that scenario.
And Susan, I know you were outside that particular house. You know, Tim and the crew at the National Weather Service, they kind of put on their engineering hats. They look at those wind speeds, they look at the construction quality of a home, and then they kind of have to map out how those winds actually interact with the home. So like Tim said, had the roof been completely blown off, had the home disappeared off the foundation, that really gives us a key indicator as to how fast those winds are. At this property here, where we have this big piece of farm equipment, the National Weather Service has actually rated this an EF2 damage with winds of about 120 miles per hour. That's through their mapping system. This was just one point on the map as they continued to follow the path of this particular tornado through Rock County.
And what's also interesting too is how much they look at the path of the trees. I mean, at that last property we were at about 2 miles from here, the path of the tree damage also gave them information.
Absolutely, and it's also the pattern of the tree damage themselves in the trees. You look for a swirling pattern. When you see that, you know it's a tornado. They also went off of eyewitness accounts for that as well, as opposed to straight line wind damage. So a lot of elements go into that, and they're continuing to compile data right now, and we'll have a more fuller picture as we go later and later.
All right, Brendan Johnson, appreciate your insight. Thanks so much. And a lot of insight from the National Weather Service as well. Let's go back to the studio and check in with Chief Meteorologist Brian Niznansky. Talk a little bit more about the tornado that hit this area last evening. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, hey, Susan. Brendan, again, assessing the damage out there, getting voices of the community that is affected out there in the Evansville area. As Tim Hallbach with the Weather Service explained, they really look at certain damage indicators when determining how strong a tornado is. So So at an EF0 strength, which has winds up to 80 plus miles per hour, you start to see things like gutters and siding damage, power outages. You have some branches broken off of trees, maybe shingles peeling off of the roof. Now at EF1 strength, we have small trees uprooted, broken windows, significant damage to the roof. We've seen EF2 damage with this storm, and that's when you start to see roofs ripped off, cars possibly flipped over, larger trees uprooted. We've seen numerous accounts of that, and there's some really high-end EF2 damage that has been seen with some of that damage, and some of it gets close to EF3 strength. If we do see EF3 strength, that's when you start to see the walls starting to collapse as well. So the Weather Service will continue to observe the damage out there, and as of right now, it stands at an EF2. All right, and remember, you can stay updated with us on air and online for live weather updates, accurate forecasts, and weather alerts on your mobile device. Steve.
Brian and Susan, thank you both. We're going to see you again in a little bit. I'm going to handle some of the other news going on today. We're going to begin in South Milwaukee. That's where police are still investigating the body of a man they found on Wednesday, stuffed in a barrel and left in a dumpster. It was about 90 minutes ago. Police told us they've identified that man as 55-year-old Alexander Stengel of Cudahy. No word on how he died. No one's in custody yet, but police say they are investigating this death as a homicide. In Milwaukee, police were on the scene of a 3-car crash near Holton and Locust. It was a school bus that slammed into a church and trapped people in their home. Witnesses say nobody was seriously hurt. There were no kids on the bus when this happened. One of the drivers involved and the Lamers Bus Company tell TMJ4 a truck turned right in front of the bus, and that's when they hit. The bus driver hit the building as she tried to avoid a crash. At the same time, another car was stopped at the light. A mother and her adult son who live above the church, they were stuck inside. Firefighters eventually got ladders to remove them safely.
I didn't get hurt, so it just was a little shocking, that's all. When you get called and told you've got multiple vehicles totaled out and one of your buses sitting inside a building, that's a real tough call.
Milwaukee police have not released any information yet. The church says the building was built just after another crash a few years back. Now they have to rebuild again. Right now, the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office is searching for a missing teen. 16-year-old Isaiah Kramer was seen Sunday evening in the village of Vernon. The sheriff says Isaiah needs daily medication. He does not have it with him. He was last seen wearing dark-colored sweatpants and a black or a dark blue hooded sweatshirt. Any information on where Isaiah Kramer could be, the sheriff needs to hear from you. Call him 262-446-5090.
Our coverage of Wisconsin's first ever February tornado continues. Right now you are taking a live look from the TMJ4 Storm Chaser, where you can see out in the fields there people working, trying to clean up after what happened last evening. Livelihoods of the Evansville community in shreds for some people. After the break, join me and Brendan as we walk through the extensive trail of destruction. We're back right after this. And welcome back. I'm Susan Kim here with my colleague Brendan Johnson. We are coming to you live from Evansville, which experienced a tornado yesterday evening, the first that Wisconsin has seen in the month of February. And I'm holding this piece of metal. I'm being very careful with it, so I don't want you to worry at home. But I just wanted to show you this because this is the kind of thing that we have been seeing in farm fields all day today during our time here. And Brendan, we've seen broken windows blown out as well. You see crews behind us working, just trying to get things cleaned up. And as you've assessed the damage today, what have you learned in terms of just how powerful of a tornado did we see?
Yeah, I think we're really seeing a lot of the damage indicators here that this tornado is capable of not just removing roof shingles, but actually lifting parts of the structure, which I really think speaks to why the National Weather Service opted with an EF2 rating. Behind us here, we mentioned this tractor that has been flipped. The National Weather Service came through here. They rated this as EF2 damage with a wind speed of about 120 miles per hour. But this is just one site out of many that they've been following along the path of this particular storm.
Well, I do want to mention, you mentioned the one site that we are here. Jeremy, if you can pan off over to your right, this is what's known as a tolls road here, and this is one of the more harder hit areas where you can see off in the distance just across the street there's been another home that suffered damage in the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the winds coming in at 120, perhaps as high as 130 to 135 miles per hour, and that is the upper limit of an EF2 tornado, and that is where the Weather Service has indicated they're going to rate this particular tornado. It's capable of doing that. So that home, it makes sense. These winds came in, they may have lifted part of that roof up. When you start to have that happen, the winds are able to penetrate into the home and create further damage. That's something the National Weather Service survey crew is really looking at. What was the point of entry? What other parts of the home could have failed coming into contact with 120, 130 mile per hour winds? Those are the kinds of things the crew is asking themselves, and that's what they're taking photos of, they're documenting, putting into the tablet, and then ultimately, when all is said and done, they'll gather back at the office and they'll really start diving into the data a little bit more. But from these scenes that we've got out here, meteorologists can make a pretty good estimation as to what those wind speeds are. So at this point, with the damage we're seeing here, the crew came by, range of about 120, perhaps 130 miles per hour. It makes sense seeing roofs, not just shingles off, but we're actually seeing, segments of the roof being removed from the home.
And we got word that about 20 buildings were damaged. But throughout all of this, it's remarkable when you look at this damage that there were no really serious injuries to any of the residents here. Yeah.
Thankfully.
All right, Brendan Johnson, thanks so much. We continue our live coverage here from Evansville throughout the evening. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. I'm Susan Kim coming to you live from Evansville, where homes and barns have been destroyed. Wisconsin's first ever February tornado. And I am joined live with my colleague here, Brendan Johnson. We've both been kind of walking around all of this farmland to see damage. And we see this big piece of metal here that was just sheared off someone's home or something here. And this is the kind of stuff that's scattered everywhere. We talked about how there weren't any serious injuries reported through all of this. And it's just kind of hard to fathom when we see the damage.
It is hard to fathom, but it's good that folks were getting that warning.
Yes.
This was an out-of-season event. And something that I was talking to Tim Hallback with the Weather Service a bit earlier, this was an event where we did not have a severe thunderstorm or tornado watch. You know, a watch where we have a very large area of the country, maybe parts of states, under a watch, and it gives us a few hours to kind of prepare.
Sure.
This was a situation where we really needed to rapidly adjust because there were signs that there was rotation in the storms that were developing right over Wisconsin. So this all happened very quickly. It means that people got that warning. It means that people got that alert and they took action, which is so very important, and adjusted to the forecast in real time. This wasn't something that meteorologists were really concerned about, on Monday or Tuesday. It really looked like kind of a far-fetched idea. We're going to have tornadoes in February, but as we got closer, that data started to come in. There was a better chance that we could see some more of that moisture, that instability get close to us, and we knew that the winds, they're really ferocious here at the surface, but upstairs, several thousand feet, they were really changing in both direction and speed. So,
and I talked to some people today who said they learned a lesson because they did not go to their basement. They didn't get there in time, and they weren't hurt. Their home had some damage, but
Sure.
she said, I will always go to the basement.
Yes.
After what happened last night. And so, a lot of people did listen, and others learned an important lesson. Brian Niznansky. It's hard to see all this damage, but people certainly here working together and wanting to help their neighbors as well.
Yeah, you guys continue to bring the pictures there. And one thing that I am thankful for, guys, I mean, I know there's bad damage where you are, but if this tornado would have stayed on the ground and slammed into Fort Atkinson, we would be talking about an even worse tragedy. Obviously, a much more populated area of that region. So again, let's put it on the record here. On record now, 2 tornadoes for the month of February. Before yesterday, we had 0 tornadoes for the month of February, guys. And again, 2 confirmed tornadoes yesterday with those storms. By far, the most tornadoes happen in June. Keep that in mind as we get closer and closer to spring. Record warmth. Hey, did we even mention yet? We broke a record again today. This actually happened at 54 degrees at midnight last night. Currently in Milwaukee, still relatively mild, but starting to cool down. 48 in Milwaukee, winds out of the west at 16 miles per hour. In Racine, 51 degrees, winds out of the west at 16 miles per hour. Considering it is still the middle of winter, this is another incredibly warm day today. 46 in Burlington, 53 currently in Kenosha. Some relatively cooler air starting to push in from the northwest. So your weather headlines: quiet weather, breezy but nice weekend with some minor snow chances on the tail end of the 7-day. One area of low pressure to the north of us, stationary boundary to the south. High pressure going to start to take over, though, and that high pressure is going to give us some quiet weather into the weekend. Future forecast here, you can see overnight tonight, mainly clear to partly cloudy skies. Through the day on Saturday, I think a good amount of sunshine expected through our day on Saturday as we head on into Saturday night. And Sunday, a little bit more cloud cover. Still think we see a little bit of sunshine on Sunday. We'll call it partly cloudy skies. And then on into Monday, quiet weather expected to continue. All right, your forecast for tonight. Low temperature 31 degrees. Partly cloudy skies for tomorrow, a high temperature of 40 degrees, mostly sunny. Here's your 7-day. On Sunday, 40 degrees, partly cloudy. Monday, 44 degrees, partly cloudy. Tuesday, partly cloudy, 36. And then on Wednesday, a slight chance of a rain-snow mixture, a little better chance on Thursday. Some more typical weather expected next week. Brendan and Susan, you mentioned earlier, Brendan mentioned there was no tornado watch that was issued. But did you guys get the indication, because I know at least a day in advance, we were mentioning the potential for this tornadic activity, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think people... many did listen, but some people did tell me today, I'm looking over at Brendan Johnson over here, my colleague, if he also heard the same thing, where people did listen, but others who did not said that they learned a lesson. Coming up on TMJ4 News at 4, we're going to hear from people who lost everything in this historic tornado.
They've had a lot of tragedies in their family, and their son just took over the farm, and now the barn's gone, the house is gone. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah. The homes they worked hard to build and their hopes for moving forward when we come back.
TMJ4 News at 4 continues.
And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for staying with us on TMJ4 News at 4 as we continue to cover the complete devastation in Evansville following Wisconsin's first ever February tornadoes. Our crew captured this drone video this afternoon where you can certainly see damage. Barns have been ripped apart, trees pulled out of the ground, and vehicles smashed, as well as people's homes destroyed. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan Kim, coming to you live from Evansville, where residents here still trying to wrap their heads around what happened and how they're going to recover from the historic tornadoes that touched down last night. As you can see behind me, I'm going to step out of the way just a little bit. We are on one of the hardest hit areas, and you can see property all along this road damaged, and people have been here all afternoon cleaning up. Buildings just ripped apart, debris just all over the ground and on this farmland. And just right next to me, you see this strip of metal here that was ripped off as well, off a structure. And these are the kinds of scenes that you're going to see all over the farmland here in Evansville. We do know at least 20 homes and businesses have been damaged by these devastating tornadoes that touched down here last night. But amazingly, there were no serious injuries reported as a result of the tornadoes. Now, it all happened so fast. That's what residents say about the tornado that swept through their yard in this area. Ron Arndt, a homeowner and landlord, is dealing with some extensive damage to his outbuildings and rental properties. His home is no longer livable and his barn completely destroyed.
It's too much to put words on even. Yeah. It's just a disaster.
And Ron says he is grateful that no one was hurt, and you saw how emotional he is there. He is hopeful for the future, though, as he's still trying to process the damage to his property. I want to bring in my colleague, Storm Team 4 meteorologist Brendan Johnson. He has been with me this afternoon in Evansville surveying the damage for yourself, but you're looking at it sort of in a different perspective, from a meteorological perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that tornado track was quite long. The videos are very impressive. One thing, of course, that I think everybody knows, this happened at night. It was very difficult to see. It always makes it so much more dangerous as we have that video here on screen. The only thing that you can really have help or use to make out what is happening in the night sky is the lightning, and that was it. So this really did come at a rather unfortunate time. The good news is a lot of folks did heed that warning. Tornado warnings went out. This wasn't necessarily something that had a tornado or severe thunderstorm watch on it. However, we were able to get that word out and people were able to take action. I had the chance to catch up with Tim Hallbach, National Weather Service Warning Coordination Meteorologist. He's really the one that's been taking charge of the survey crews. And, this was really a storm system that we were watching for a couple days in advance, but really became clear was going to be a problem earlier in the day yesterday.
This can happen any time of the year. It's the weather elements, if they come together, you can get tornadoes. As you see, we get winter storms in April, so that's where it's important to be paying attention to the forecast and seeing things change. A couple days ago, we weren't really hitting this very hard. It was more so as the day went on yesterday that it started showing signs that we got a bigger problem.
And your Storm Team 4 was talking about a marginal level 1 risk of severe weather. We were talking about that all yesterday. We had started to see hints the day before. We adapt and change as new data comes in and we refine that forecast. So even though things really did kind of ramp up here just maybe a few hours before the event happened or even the morning of, we were changing and getting that word out. And the good news is a lot of folks, even though this was off season, were able to take the steps to prepare.
Well, and it certainly perked up your ears when you started talking about that in February, and I know you and your colleagues were talking about how this has never happened in Wisconsin in February, so that certainly got a lot of people's attention. We're going to continue to have live coverage here all afternoon in Evansville, but Brian, I want to send it back to you in the studios.
Yeah, it took a lot. Brendan and I on Wednesday, we were talking, we mentioned on air, I know there's never been a tornado in February, but we started to talk about the potential. The ingredients were there. Not only did we have our first ever February tornado, but we had a stronger EF2 tornado and a longer tracking tornado. As we take a look at this estimated path here, east end of Evansville, and then it dissipated just before reaching Fort Atkinson, a much more populated part of this region of the state. And then last night, let's go back to the radar imagery, the velocity data, and you can see that very well-defined couplet where you see that red and that blue coming together there. Those brighter colors indicated that strong tornado. What you have is basically winds moving in a counterclockwise direction as it continued its path to the farther to the northeast. Thankfully, that tornado lifted before reaching the Fort Atkinson area. It was very powerful on radar, and now we're seeing the result of it this afternoon as we got more daylight for today. So as we take a look and we move forward, we're going to look ahead towards your weekend forecast, and you can remember to stay updated with us on air and online. Live weather updates, accurate forecasts, and weather alerts on your mobile device. Steve.
Accurate indeed, Ms. Thank you so much. We're going to go to Kenosha now for a few moments, where help is coming for a rundown playground on the city's south side. Jeffrey Zampani takes us to Sunnyside Park, where neighbors showed him the reason they are so frustrated.
Sunnyside Park sits across the street from worldwide tool manufacturer Snap-on. It was dedicated in the 50s. The playground equipment isn't quite that old, but it looks like it could be.
The safety of the park is my biggest concern.
Rusty chains, cracked plastic, chipped paint, and broken glass. Kenosha's Anna Milchek visits the park quite often with her 1-year-old daughter Zosha. She and others living nearby want to know how the park was allowed to get so run down.
This park in particular deserves to be upgraded, deserves to be nice, deserves to be safe.
I took Anna's concerns to city officials, who tell me help is on the way. The city's park director says new equipment is ready to be installed.
So we just got it in over the winter, and it will be replaced before the summer months come up.
Sunnyside's $40,000 upgrade centers around a large module unit.
There will be some slides, some climbing structures, some balance features, and a double bass swing set. It'll be a really nice addition to the park.
It is one of 2 Kenosha parks getting a makeover. Plans at Newman Park call for a small playground and a baseball diamond. It is welcome news for parents like Anna.
I spend a lot of time here and at different Kenosha parks, so that would really improve my quality of life, and also for the residents here and everyone else.
In Kenosha, Jeffrey Zampanti, TMJ4 News.
And we're told that within the last hour or so, city crews arrived at Sunnyside. They began tearing down portions of the playground. Maybe a sign the upgrade will come sooner than later. We'll be right back.
The affordable housing is becoming more scarce. Shelter space is becoming more scarce. So obviously the overflow is becoming unsheltered.
Last week, TMJ4 News showed you how Milwaukee's street angels are combating a rise in homelessness as the county records a more than 14% increase in the number of the families living unsheltered year over year. Despite those numbers, Milwaukee County maintains its position as a national leader in addressing homelessness. Ryan Jenkins introduces us to a Milwaukee County housing navigator who says their program is working to get families off the street.
Local homeless outreach groups tell me the problem of homelessness is only getting worse. You look over my shoulder, you can see that the Holt Avenue Park and Ride is full of individuals who are living in their cars, living in RVs. Today we are invited by Milwaukee County housing navigators to see how they are taking on this problem.
We were put in a tough spot and we were evicted from our house, and we really didn't have anywhere to go.
PJ and Logan have been living inside this RV at the Holt Avenue Park and Ride for about 5 months.
We were actually here when it was like -8 degrees and, our heat went off.
That's until Milwaukee County's housing navigator stepped in, connecting this family to a new apartment, making sure rent and utilities are taken care of.
Being homeless, there's nothing good about it, but when there is applicable, available programs through the county that actually makes sense, and you can utilize them, and look at where we're at now.
We've got, camper vans here. We've got people staying in their cars. So for the past 5 months, I've been helping to, get them into their own housing.
Steve Hill is a Milwaukee County housing navigator. He and his team hit the ground running in September, part of the county's Housing First strategy.
We're liaising with private landlords, property managers. We're helping them in terms of getting their application fees in, anything that's going to be required so that they can, move on with, respect and dignity.
And navigators like Steve and Felicia McCall say they are seeing the rise in need this year.
I can say that there is an influx of homelessness.
Despite the influx, the county maintains its status as a national leader in addressing homelessness. The county's Department of Health and Human Services says it counted 0 chronically homeless individuals for 2 years in a row. I'm told that means no one was reported unsheltered without services for 12 months or more. For those living unsheltered less than a year and who did receive services, the county recorded 96 individuals. Compared to similarly sized cities, Milwaukee's numbers are the lowest. While these stats may offer perspective, they don't erase the day-to-day reality of street homelessness.
Where do you sleep at night?
Where I can lay my head. Sometimes this is 4, sometimes the other places is 4.
All the more reason housing navigators continue the fight to end homelessness by connecting people with homes, jobs, and health care, and ultimately with independence.
Now we're taken care of and we can concentrate more on our family and going to where we need to go.
Reporting in Milwaukee, Ryan Jenkins, TMJ4 News.
Ryan, thank you. Our coverage of Wisconsin's first ever February tornadoes continues. When we come back, Brendan Johnson and I will recap exactly what happened, and we're going to talk to this guy right here. We're on his property. We're going to learn about how he reacted when he saw the damage to the farm behind us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We are live in Evansville, where communities here have been really parts of it destroyed by Wisconsin's first ever February tornadoes. And my colleague Brendan Johnson and I are joined by Pete Sendelbach, We are on his wife's family farm right now, and you can see all around us the damage and really devastation from the tornadoes here. Pete, appreciate your time with us this afternoon. I know you have been working here all day long. Tell us, first of all, what was your reaction when you got here and saw what had happened?
How could you get such a mess this time of year? It took out everything.
When you say this time of year, you're talking about February. What were you doing at the time? Because I'm wondering, did you know the storm was coming?
I was working where our shop was. My wife wanted to cook out, so I went home early. Yeah, we were cooking out. Didn't think nothing of it. They had tornado warnings, but February, yeah. Thought it's a pretty slim chance.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But you heard like a siren, maybe it went off on your phone? Or...
As I was cooking,
Sure.
We live 4 miles from here, but I could hear the town siren go off. But when it hits the county siren goes off, and they said they had them, but I thought, yeah, right. It's back to February. We don't have that's what everybody said. Never had one in February.
So it was a shock to think that it could be in February that this happened. And at your home, just 4 miles from here, what was the situation like there?
No, we just had the rain and hail, but nothing otherwise.
Okay, and you have a huge crew here helping with all this work.
Yep.
How long's the day been? What's the work been like? I mean, I have to imagine it's been
all
pretty
day
intensive.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for friends and family.
Yeah.
Are they out here helping you? What has their reaction been like when they saw that you needed some help here?
Same, everybody's willing to chip in and come out and help. So it's great.
Yeah.
What has this day been like for you as you're trying to just clean up everything that's happened?
I don't know. It's all a blur. You're not numb to it, I guess. I don't know if it's sunk in. You know everything's gone, but that's about it.
Yeah. Pete, I think the most striking thing here that we can at least see has been this trailer, this tractor here that's been completely turned over. It's February. I mean, the winds that ferocious, about 120 mile per hour winds is what the Weather Service thinks.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, you usually taking that out?
No, that was sitting in our shop over there.
Okay.
Just got done working on it, and the shop's gone. There's where the sprayer laid.
Oh, wow.
So what?
All the rest of our stuff across the fields that way.
Yeah, across the road here. So what happens now?
The insurance give us the okay to start cleaning up. So it's all from there now. I clean up the best we can and move on, I guess.
Will you listen to tornado warnings from here on out, even if
I
it's...
take them a little more serious from now on.
Yeah.
That's the wife used to get mad because I'd sit out and watch for them. Never been in one. Might pay more attention.
Well, Pete, we certainly appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Best of luck with all of this work, and I'm so happy to see that you do have friends and family here to help you today.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Pete Sendelbach got a lot of work ahead of him. Brian Niznansky, we want to send it back to you. So Pete says he did hear the warnings, but it was hard to believe that something like this could happen in February in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it's the same thing forecasting too. Again, we mentioned the day before the potential that we could see these tornadoes, and sure enough, it happened. That's the heart of farm country out there. Some hardworking people, and they got a mess on their hands, and hopefully cleanup will continue smoothly. They'll have a good weekend for it. 43 degrees, the high temperature today in Waukesha. We got up to 54 in Milwaukee. That was actually at midnight last night, another record high temperature. Port Washington, a little bit more cloud cover, 44 degrees, winds out of the west at 12 miles per hour. Headlines here, quiet weather expected, breezy but nice weekend. Some minor snow chances on the 7-day forecast. A little bit of light snow in northern Wisconsin. That's good to see, just not going to add up to much. Down to the south of us, a stationary boundary for us. High pressure will start to take over and give us some quiet weather. So partly cloudy skies expected for tonight. Tomorrow, future forecasts follow the time. You can see we're dealing with mostly sunny skies. Pretty nice day for Saturday. It would be perfect if we had a little bit of snow on the ground that we'd be able to enjoy. High temperatures around 40 degrees. As we head into Sunday, a little bit more cloud cover expected. I think a partly cloudy sky on Sunday. Future forecasts may be overdoing the cloud cover a bit. Then as we head on into tonight, we'll look for partly cloudy skies and a low temperature down to 31 degrees. For tomorrow, a high temperature of 40 degrees, mostly sunny. And here's your 7-day. On Sunday, 40 degrees. On Monday, 44 degrees. Tuesday, 36. Slight chance of a wintry mix on Wednesday. And a light snow chance on Thursday. Susan and Steve.
All right, Brian, thank you. And Steve, the sun is starting to go down here after about 24 hours since these tornadoes hit Wisconsin. And you can tell spirits, people are working hard to try to move on from the damage.
Yeah, spend a day just in shock from this, and then the hard work begins of cleaning everything up. Susan, thank you for all your hard work and everybody on your team's hard work. We're going to continue it on TMJ4 News at 5, and that comes your way next.